I'll be honest with you, I wasn't particularly excited when I heard that we were getting a cute animal set in Bloomburrow. But after some time exploring Valley and encountering the various creature factions that populated this plane, my opinion has drastically changed, as there is this undeniable charm and wonder packed into every nook and cranny of this set. But there was something else about Bloomburrow that stuck with me. You see, this set has a familiar structure reminiscent of Ravnica, with its 10 two-color guilds. But here, the twist is that each color pair is associated to a specific animal, with their own unique cultures, magic, and ideals. And as someone who is a fan of color pie-centric sets, I knew I had to learn more about each of the animals that populate Bloomburrow. That's why I traveled to Valley myself to meet its inhabitants and document what I found. And I cannot wait to share it with all of you. So let's begin. When I first arrived in Valley, it was the Birdfolk that immediately caught my eye. Their feathers shimmering in a riot of colors, each one a testament to their unique personality. The Birdfolk, ever busy, flew with purpose, carrying mail, delivering aid, and even offering rides to other animals across the expansive valley. Their sense of duty and chivalry was evident in everything they did, though there was always this air of self-importance to their nature. While I was there, one of the Birdfolk approached me, as it must have been apparent how lost I looked. They introduced themselves as a member of the Wind-Crested, an elite subset who had braved the Plume Creed, a perilous journey to the tip of the world, one that only the bravest among them took part in. But for those who succeeded, they earned not just a name for themselves, but were gifted with supernatural speed and agility. This Wind-Crested invited me to the Preenery, a communal bathhouse where birdfolk gathered to preen their feathers and don their finest attire. It was here that I learned about their deep concern for appearance and social status, a seemingly frivolous tradition, but one carried out with a sense of duty. The same they apply to everything they do. You see, birdfolk are staunch idealists, unwavering in their defense of justice and equity. They believe themselves to be natural leaders among the animal folk, a role they embrace with fervor. From a young age, birdfolk sought out elders to learn the art of weaving spells, guided by the ethical principles of the Wingbeat Way. As leaders and diplomats, birdfolk often took the reins in Valley's diverse communities. Their grandiose speeches at the start of each day inspired those around them, though their insistence on having the final say sometimes led to friction. Before I moved on, I was invited into one of their homes, known as perches, located high in trees or on stilts. A home, I was told, they offered as sanctuary to any animal folk in need. In my time with the birdfolk, I felt a profound sense of admiration for their dedication to service and chivalry. Their confidence, though sometimes bordering on arrogance, was rooted in a genuine desire to protect and uplift their fellow inhabitants of Valley. Once night fell, I came across the Batfolk, mysterious nocturnal guardians who are a sight to behold. Even though they are eccentric and superstitious, they carry a fierce sense of loyalty and tradition, guided by the moon and stars. Their communities thrive on order and rigid roles, each Batfolk knowing their place in the grand tapestry of the night. I noticed that unlike other folk, they often flew alone on silent patrols, their eyes ever watchful. These guardians of the night see themselves as the protectors of balance, maintaining the delicate harmony between light and dark, life and death. Their leaders are a blend of magic practitioners, spiritual guides, and battle-hardened veterans, all united by a common purpose. One evening, I was even lucky enough to be invited to witness the Lunar Paean, a celebration held at the end of each moon phase. It was a mesmerizing blend of festivity and ritual, where the Batfolk shared their beliefs and respects for the cycles of life. The event was attended by denizens from all corners of Valley, especially those born under the same lunar pattern. Fortunes were told, star charts assigned to newborns, and families gazed at the stars, connecting with their ancestors. It was a night of profound significance for me, steeped in tradition and cosmic wonder. I learned from them that as night protectors, they patrol while others sleep, their magic drawn from the very stars they revere. Even their homes reflected their mystical approach. Known as perches, these architectural marvels hang from trees in smooth, swooping shapes, adorned with starlights and intricate spires. Inside, celestial motifs and astrolabes create an atmosphere of both grandeur and serenity. It is here where fortune telling and star reading are popular pastimes. Yet, whether they follow the stars or their own unique path, every Batfolk I met embodied a profound respect for balance. Their commitment to their role as Valley's nocturnal guardians was unwavering and honestly inspiring, leaving a lasting impression on me. The Mousefolk of Valley are vibrant, adventurous souls whose hearts beat with an unquenchable spirit. These plucky creatures embark on quests for glory and treasure, their bravery often bordering on the naive. They believe in acts of heroism as the highest virtue, leaping into danger without hesitation. At their best, Mousefolk are loyal and courageous, but at their worst, they can be impulsive and reckless. Of all the animal folk I met, there was something about the Mousefolk that reminded me of home. A human spirit, I suppose. Their bustling communities like the bustling cities of home. Of note, Mousefolk communities thrive on large, interconnected families led by wise elders. These close-knit groups collaborate to tackle collective problems, their strong familial bond forming the backbone of their society. Without question, these spirited beings are doers, not thinkers, preferring the thrill of adventure, which can lead them into perilous situations. Now, I don't say this lightly, but they were eager to tell me of their stories of their adventures, and the optimistic determination of their stories was honestly a delight. If I were to attribute one virtue to the Mousefolk, I would say it was their heroism, as if they thrived off the challenges they faced. Though I was skeptical at first, I learned quickly that the Mousefolk were made of metal despite their stature. Their roles within Valley seemed to lean into their nature quite well, as they were often found working on large community projects, leading defense efforts, or venturing into the brambles for vital resources. Mousefolk, above all else, are dedicated to the common good, and their eagerness to assist others make them cherished members of the Valley community, and cherished in my own heart. In the end, the Mousefolk's combination of bravery, loyalty, and a strong sense of community make them the unsung heroes of Valley, always ready to leap into action and protect their beloved home. The Rabbitfolk of Valley, industrious and talented, are the heart and souls of the land's culinary and agricultural bounty. So believe you me, I was excited to meet them. From what I heard, they are often seen as humble homebodies renowned for their dedication to hard work and hospitality. I was welcomed into the home of one such Rabbitfolk, who I spoke to at length while she cooked a raspberry pie. Her home was coziness personified, blending into the surrounding area, with a lazy windmill spinning above. She told me of how the Rabbitfolk culture is rooted in a deep connection to the earth, that it's important to them that their hands are ever busy, tilling soil and nurturing plants. To them, conflict is an unwelcome guest. They prefer to let tensions dissipate rather than face them head on. To be frank, simple values and clear ideals guide their lives. Complexities and gray areas cause them to freeze or retreat, so they cling to traditions rather than the unexpected. And there is something about that outlook that I appreciate. I learned firsthand that their generosity knows no bounds. Even as an outsider, I was showered in gifts and delicious food, which were more than simple tokens, but honestly great gestures that reflected their desire to show prosperity and goodwill. For the most part, Rabbitfolk are tethered to their roots. This is because family and community are the lifeblood of Rabbitfolk society. They live in tight-knit groups called fluffles, where multiple generations share homes and responsibilities. The eldest members hold revered positions, guiding their kin with wisdom. After dinner, I met some warrior Rabbitfolk who showed me that despite their pacifist nature, Rabbitfolk stand ready to defend their homes. The Paw Patch Party, a band of elite warriors, patrols Valley to protect against calamity beasts. Adventurous Rabbitfolk often serve as clerics or frontline warriors, their healing spells and formidable strength making them invaluable allies. With all of that said though, most of those I talk to still prefer hospitality over combat. My journey eventually led me to the marshlands at the edge of Valley. The air was thick, the earth damp, nevertheless I pushed on. Lucky for me, a cautious Ratfolk greeted me not far into my journey, surely watching me the moment I entered their land. His eyes were sharp and wary, yet curiosity flickered behind those same eyes. I explained why I was there and he said that he was willing to guide me. While we walked, he spoke of their ancestors who once freely shared knowledge until a catastrophic misuse nearly unleashed an apocalypse. Since then, the Ratfolk turned inward, their society becoming secretive and suspicious. Despite their aloofness, I sensed a profound intelligence and resilience in them. In the heart of their settlements, I was introduced to the knowledge ossuaries, sprawling caverns beneath the marshes filled with relics and artifacts carried by the long river. Each item was meticulously catalogued, part of the world whorl, a spiraling archive of Valley's history. I also learned that Ratfolk form deep bonds with insect companions. These relationships are almost telepathic and are a cornerstone of their culture. My guide's insect partner, a luminous beetle, flittered nearby, responding to unspoken commands. I was then led to their homes, which were a stark contrast to the elaborate knowledge ossuaries. They were simple, undecorated barracks lining the marsh. Yet the central plazas still burst with life and artistry. Ratfolk walked by, talking to themselves or their insect companions, engrossed in their thoughts and tasks. Despite their reclusive nature, Ratfolk play crucial roles in Valley as advisors and librarians. Recently, more Ratfolk have ventured into larger communities, sharing their knowledge and skills. As my time with the Ratfolk drew to a close, I marveled at their resilience and ingenuity. Though their mistrust of outsiders and secretive ways might seem standoffish, their dedication to preserving Valley's history and knowledge is unwavering. I personally left the marshlands with a newfound respect for these guardians of ancient secrets. My journey then took me to the winding rivers of Valley, leading me to the home of the spirited Otterfolk, whose laughter and playful antics were as much a part of the water as the currents themselves. As I floated along, I encountered a group of Otterfolk engaged in a boisterous game of Otterball. Intrigued, I was invited to join, and though I never fully grasped the game, their infectious joy was impossible to resist. The Otterfolk are the daredevils of Valley, always seeking the next thrill. One of them, a particularly adventurous soul named Ripple, regaled me with tales of storm chasing, a favorite pastime among his kind. Lightning, in particular, held a special place in their hearts, often collected in shells and pearls to be used in their daring games or in their spellcasting. Ripple even showed me a glass bulb filled with the electric energy of a storm, a trophy from his latest chase. Living mostly on water, the Otterfolk make their homes on playful houseboats, which they call rafts. These floating abodes drift along the rivers, rarely touching solid ground. Life on these rafts is a constant adventure. I was lucky enough to witness a roping, a seasonal gathering where houseboats are linked up to form a large circle. This event was a vibrant celebration of community, trade, and friendly competition, with the central water area used as a playground for their young pups. Now, despite their seemingly carefree nature, the Otterfolk are incredibly skilled and resourceful. They are the best fishers and divers in Valley. Their intimate knowledge of the waterways makes them excellent navigators and invaluable guides. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ripple and his friends performed an impromptu acrobatic show. Their sleek, nimble bodies moved with such grace and agility, enhanced by bursts of captured lightning, and left the entire audience, me included, in awe. This blend of magic and physical prowess is a testament to their adventurous spirit and boundless energy. In the end, my time with the Otterfolk was a whirlwind of excitement and camaraderie. Their daring, jovial nature and their love for the thrill of the moment were contagious. They lived their life to the fullest, embracing every challenge with laughter, reminding all who encounter them of the joy that can be found in the simplest of moments. While following the streams of valley, I came to a pond, but since I had been transformed into a small animal, this pond stretched out like a lake. As I marveled at the tranquil setting, a croaking laugh drew my attention. There, perched on a mossy stone, was Orin, an elderly frogfolk with a gaze that seemed to look through me. Orin was not expecting visitors, yet he welcomed me with a knowing smile. As we settled beside the still waters, he began to share the lore of his people, who are renowned for their ability as seers, using their deep understanding of nature to predict the movements of calamity beasts and the shifting seasons that come with them. This skill, honed over generations, has earned them respect and a touch of fear among the other animal folk of Valley, their visions often bringing warnings of impending doom. It was this constant vigilance against potential disasters that instilled a sense of pessimism in his people, a fatalistic outlook that can make some seem distant and aloof. Orin, with a bit of dramatic flair, recounted tales of past calamities averted and futures narrowly saved. As we talked, he took me to their farmlands, if they could be called such. Here, they took on an untraditional version of farming, where instead of forcing a certain crop, they would manipulate the area to encourage natural growth of a desired plant. Here, Orin spoke to me of how the Frogfolk are both guardians and guides, their insights crucial to the survival of Valley's inhabitants. I got the impression that the Frogfolk are beings of deep knowledge and somber duty, balancing curiosity with caution. Though often burdened by the weight of their visions, their contributions are invaluable, ensuring that life continues safely under their vigilant watch. As I wandered into the rugged terrain of Valley, where the shaly hills met rocky ravines, I stumbled upon a group of lizard folk, their scales shimmering under the sun's rays. I approached cautiously, knowing their reputation for being gruff and standoffish. Nonetheless, the leader of the group, a lizard folk named Vesk, greeted me with a curt nod. Without much in the way of pleasantries, they invited me to join them around their central hearth flame. The fire crackled warmly, casting dancing shadows on their rugged faces. Here, fire is not just warmth, it is the heart of their community, a spiritual anchor brought from their far-off homeland. As we sat, I watched them work together, forging metal and crafting intricate sculptures. Their artistry was impressive, but what struck me the most was their unique tradition of destruction. Once a piece of art no longer inspired awe, it was ceremoniously destroyed, making way for new creation. It was this cycle of creation and destruction that was the art in itself, and to them it was more about the spirit of that art living on rather than some physical thing, like a flame burning bright and hot only to extinguish. As we watched the fire burn, Vesk spoke of the importance of favors and grudges to the lizard folk society. You see, a favor given must be repaid, and grudges can linger unless amends are made sincerely. This transactional nature, though often misunderstood, forms the backbone of their community bonds. I felt he made this point to ensure I made friends, not enemies, during my stay. So I nodded and watched the fire some more, and it became evident that fire was central to their lives, both practically and spiritually. They are keepers of the flame, maintaining fires through long winters, and controlling wildfires to protect other villages. As I left the lizard folk enclave, I was reminded by the fact that strength comes from both cooperation and the fiery spirit to forge one's own path. As I continued on late one night, I came to an area with dense thickets and twisted trees. It was here where I encountered a small village of Squirrelfolk, their homes perched on stilts or nestled in ancient decaying trees, and stood as quiet sentinels in the swampy underbrush. As I approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, an elder Squirrelfolk named Thistle, her demeanor as prickly as her name suggested. Thistle was a warlock whose work involved bearing the remains of calamity beasts and animating bones. Death, Thistle mused as she led me through their village, is a natural part of life. Other animal folk fear it, but we understand its necessity. She also spoke of how Squirrelfolk are not just keepers of bones and death, but also preppers for the inevitable. They maintain robust caches of food, prepared meticulously for the harsh and sudden seasonal changes brought on by calamity beasts, storing salted fish, pickled vegetables, dried fruits, jams, nuts, and seeds. As we walked, Thistle showed me these stores, which in some cases were intermingled with the bones of calamity beasts. We believe these bones imbue the food with the power of these terrible forces, she explained, her eyes reflecting a deep-seated belief in the energy that flows through all things. Thistle spoke of their belief that calamity beasts trap energy that should flow through nature. By collecting and ritually burying their remains, they aim to return this energy back into the earth. A select few even practice a more direct form of necromancy, using the bones to wield powerful magic. I asked Thistle why they seem so isolated from the rest of Valley, and was told that there are many macabre rumors that swirl around them, which often leads to an apprehensive relationship with the other animal folk. As we reached the heart of the village, Thistle showed me a small shrine built around the massive bones of a long-defeated calamity beast. "We draw strength from these remains," she said, her voice filled with reverence. A reminder that from decay springs new life. When I left the next day, I reflected on my time with the Squirrelfolk. I saw firsthand the balance they strive to maintain. Their solitary nature and morbid focus that might seem off-putting to some, but beneath the surface lies a deep, unwavering commitment to the land and the cycle found within. As I bid Thistle farewell and left their secluded village, I couldn't help but feel a profound respect for these stewards of the darker side of Valley. Nearing the end of my adventure, as twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, I stumbled upon a group of Raccoonfolk gathered round a crackling campfire, their laughter and stories filling the air with an infectious joy. Their reputation as hoarders and collectors was evident the moment I saw them, with each carrying a knick-knack of some sort with them. A broken teapot here, a shattered weapon there. Each trinket a memory, a story waiting to be told. One of the Raccoonfolk, named Bramble, eagerly showed me his collection, his eyes sparkling as he recounted the tales behind each item. "This pebble," he said, holding up a small smooth stone, "came from the highest peak in the Brambles. Took me 3 days to climb, but the view was worth every step." Raccoonfolk are adventurous at heart, seldom turning down a chance to explore the unknown. As that night wore on, I learned that Raccoonfolk have a unique relationship with property and ownership. Their homes, built into the bases of trees with big roots as doors and cozy fireplaces, are less about personal space and more about communal living. It's not uncommon for a Raccoonfolk to return home and find a guest making themselves comfortable. Trinkets and trophies gathered from their travels also clutter every corner of their homes. She then proceeded to tell me how they manipulate discarded materials, turning junk into projectiles or barriers, and their druids can even weave plant matter into powerful knots imbued with energy. "It's all about finding new uses for the old," she said with a grin. Walking amongst them, I could see that Raccoonfolk form deep friendships with even other animal folk. Their free-spirited joy melts even the iciest disposition. That night, I learned firsthand of their legendary parties, late-night gatherings filled with games, food, and storytelling. But when dawn did finally approach and it was time to bid the Raccoonfolk goodbye, they made sure to tell me to come back anytime, as I was always welcome in Valley. Well, thanks for joining me on this long journey through the plain of Bloomburrow, and specifically the land of Valley. If you like this sort of approach to discovering Plains of Magic the Gathering, then check out this video here where I travel to the lands of mists and shapeshifters on Kaldheim. And with that, friends, I will catch you in the multiverse. Bye.